An entitled Karen tries to stop paramedics from getting patients into the hospital and demands to be seen first. The situation got so bad that the police had to get involved. So a few days ago, around 5 o'clock in the evening, we got a call about a code black that was announced in the hospital where I work. For those of you who don't know what a code black means, it basically means that people got hurt on a very large scale and that these patients were being sent our way. A code black might mean something different at different hospitals, but that's how we have it labeled. Apparently, 2 buses had collided with each other and some patients were mildly hurt, while some also had some serious injuries. And with all of that in mind, here comes the entitled Karen with her stupid gremlin child. She had brought her son into the emergency room because her son was having minor stomach aches and was refusing to eat food. I personally went to her and told her that a large number of patients are coming here as they have trauma and that we're going to be seeing them first so that we can ensure that this possibly fatal incident doesn't cause anybody to pass away. So we asked her to either wait in the hall or to go to the Department of Medicine and someone would attend to them there. With that in mind, this entitled Karen starts to make a fuss about how we're refusing to do our duty and how we are just there to trouble the patients. At the same time of this entitled Karen saying this, the first 2 ambulances have arrived and both the patients were injured badly. On seeing that, the security guards had to clear the entrance to the emergency room and asked her to move aside. When she refused to do so, he called a female guard and they pushed them aside. She actually started to scream like a banshee that we had apparently assaulted her as well as her gremlin child and that now she is going to call the police and file charges against her for harassment. We ignored her shouting and screaming and we took the patients inside and gave their wounds enough support to stop any kind of tragedy from happening. We were also prepping these patients so that they could be taken into surgery for the injuries that they had occurred. She came back into the ER with her stupid child and of course we were there, and let's just say that because these patients were injured, things were not as tidy on the ground as you would expect, if you know what I mean. And because things were so urgent and things weren't quite cleaned up like they would have been right away, this entitled Karen started to shout at us, saying that we are going to give them infections and make them sick because of how things look currently. We again had to ask the guards to escort her out of the building as the ambulances with less injured patients had to start coming in. We were tending to those patients when she tried to stop the entry of a patient who was not very injured but needed full examination. She said that this patient is fine and her precious baby needs treatment first. Remember, we had already told her to go to the other department, but she didn't want to walk the small distance to go over there and have her precious little child evaluated and treated. This time she actually did call the police and tried to pester us again. One of my fellow doctors intervened and told the police exactly what's going on, telling them the entire scenario. They already knew that we were treating patients and that apparently the woman had told them that we were refusing to see any patients and that we were making them wait outside. After hearing just about enough, the policemen took this lady outside and gave her a nice earful, as well as delivering some strong words, as well as a hefty fine. This lady was banned from the hospital for 2 weeks. Later, we did treat her son, and it all turned out to be a sham. This kid didn't even have any stomach issues. The child was in fact just making a big fuss because he didn't get the food that he wanted that night for dinner. On the brighter side, all of the patients that had to come into the hospital were all completely treated, and today was the last day that we saw any of the patients involved in that accident. They are doing perfectly fine. Some people really have the audacity to be such idiots in scenarios of emergency for nothing but attention and drama. I'm honestly surprised that lady didn't go to jail for trying to obstruct people from getting into the hospital who actually had some kind of issues going on. I've heard and seen Karens be absolutely ridiculous in situations where it's like, oh man, you're not getting the sale that you wanted that was advertised in the newspaper, or oh no, you treated my kid badly at the restaurant we're going to. But in a moment of an emergency, it's really baffling to me that someone would try and act this entitled. Like, can't this lady see that there's somebody that might pass away because of the actions that they're taking? This lady really tried to pull the whole, I'm gonna call the police on you, as if that's gonna solve anything. And the worst part about it is, this kid was not even sick. He was just being a spoiled little brat. I wonder where he learned that behavior from. They could have gone down to another department and stopped bothering the emergency room and actually gotten some treatment that could have helped them. It's just ridiculous that they acted this way, and I genuinely cannot believe that they didn't get arrested. In my opinion, if you obstruct an ambulance or any kind of patients who are in dire need from getting into a hospital, you deserve some jail time in my opinion. But that's just me. What would you do if you were in this situation? If you were hypothetically a doctor on call or someone in the emergency room watching this go down, how would you react? Because I can tell you, I would not have been very kind if I saw this happening. Leave a comment down below. Would love to hear it. I just found out that the guy I've been seeing used to sleep with my close friend, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. So recently, I've been seeing this new guy for the past 5 months, and everything was going great. We've been doing long distance as he had a job at another state. However, he will be back home in about 2 months. He's honestly really sweet. He goes above and beyond for me, and we share a lot of the same values. However, I found out from a friend of mine that he used to sleep with his best female friend quite regularly, who was also a long-term good friend of mine. When I asked him about this, he said it was true and that he was going to bring it up once he got home. And he didn't bring it up last time he was here, and he didn't want to ruin the time we were spending together. He was willing to answer any questions I wanted and to give me space to wrap my head around the whole thing. However, I can't help but just be super turned off since finding out about this. I've had a lot of bad history with infidelity in past relationships, so I might have some trust issues. However, it's not even jealousy at this point. The two of them are really close, which I feel could bring up problems in the future, and I don't want to be that person saying they can't be friends. Their thing together stopped about a month before he met me, and they've maintained this very close friendship ever since. I'm just super turned off over it, which is a shame as he is already a great guy, and everyone has a past before they meet someone, right? Is this immaturity? Do I need time to process this and to wrap my head around this, and then I'll be okay with it? Or is this a deal breaker? Has anyone else ever been through something similar? And how did it turn out for you? What should I do? I can understand where you're coming from, but I also don't see this as a deal breaker in my opinion. If I was with a woman and she was with one of my best friends a month ago, I personally would not find any conflict with this as long as there's no romantic feelings between either of them anymore. If there's any kind of feelings or any kind of flirting or anything along those lines, that would be a big red flag for me. If I'm going to consider them my girlfriend, then they need to act like my girlfriend, not the flirty ex-girlfriend of some other guy, especially if that other guy was a good friend of mine. But in that same vein of thought, I completely understand where you're coming from. He was with your best friend. I mean, you can't ignore that. So I totally understand where you're coming from, where you feel a little bit jealous, as well as a little bit jaded by the whole situation in general. That honestly makes sense. But I don't think you should call off this relationship just because of somebody's past. If he hits all the marks and he's being loyal to you, and he loves you and he cares about you, in my opinion, I don't think you should just get rid of him. I think maybe giving this some time and having some time to process it and accept that, hey, he's been with other people before, will really help you go a long way with this relationship in general. Is me threatening to break up with my boyfriend manipulation? So my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months. Our first months together were bliss because we live very close by and we both had minimal responsibility at the time. So we spend every waking moment together. But now we are kind of long distance. We live about an hour apart and he's always busy with school and family. So I only end up seeing him 1 to 3 times a month. When our 6-month mark was coming up a couple of weeks ago, I felt like we didn't really have much of a relationship to celebrate because I hardly saw him, and it felt like not much effort was being put in on his end. He was treating our relationship as it was in the first month when we quite literally were together 24/7, but being 60 miles away and him being mostly busy most of the time definitely makes things hard. Anytime I would mention him coming to see me, he would complain about gas prices and that the trip itself would take an entire tank of gas. I always drive to see him whenever I get the chance. Even though gas is so expensive, I don't care about the gas prices and will just sacrifice me eating out or something like that to pay for the gas. I never complain about it because I genuinely want to see him. Even when he comes and sees me, he sends me a picture of how much gas costs with a crying emoji. Like, yeah, that makes me feel really great, but I was driving to see him way more than he was, and it just didn't feel like the effort was mutual. He also says he appreciates me and that he will do anything for me, as well as wanting me to be in his life long term, but I don't know, it just never feels that way. Since I met him, he hasn't given me flowers, and he just doesn't do the little things that I enjoy, and I have told him I've communicated what I want, and he just says, well, I was planning on doing that, but never actually does it. I understand he's busy, and I understand he's still in school, whereas I've already graduated, so he doesn't make as much as I do, and he helps his family with his money. So I genuinely understand that he has other responsibilities and priorities, but it was starting to feel like he was just expecting me to stay by his side without any effort. I know who I am and what I deserve, and I kind of had a reality check with myself when 6 months was coming up, and I was like, yeah, I don't deserve this. This has kind of been an ongoing conversation, but anytime I say something about it, he apologizes and says something along the lines of, I appreciate you and just bear with me until I finish school. And that's about it. When 6 months was approaching, I was hardly sleeping, and I just wasn't at peace with where our relationship was. So I literally drove to him at 11 o'clock at night because having this conversation over FaceTime and hearing him say, I appreciate you, just bear with me, was really getting old. Why do we need to wait for him to finish school to have a good relationship? Why not do what we can now to build a solid foundation if we really are in this for the long run? Anyways, he recognized and understood that ever since we moved away from each other and he started his new semester as well as a new job, he hasn't been putting in a lot of effort, and he apologized and said he didn't realize how much this was actually bothering me. In this conversation, I told him I truly do want to be with him, but the way he's treating our relationship makes me me question a lot of things. And well, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I told him, if you were anybody else, I would have broken up with you by now. I would have broken up with him that night, but I really do care about him, unlike anybody I've ever met, and I want to give him the chance. I told him if our relationship is the same by our 1-year mark, then I don't think I'll stay, and I stand by that. Ultimately, we worked things out. On our 6-month day, which was a couple's day after that conversation, he drove to me with a big bouquet of roses, with the number 6 written in different color roses, as well as a huge stuffed bear, some balloons, and some sentimental gifts. Overall, this has really just been bothering me. But was me saying I'll break up with him manipulation? I read up a lot on domestic abuse, as well as emotional and verbal and physical abuse, partner manipulation, you name it. So I can be educated on that, and I do all that I can to have a healthy relationship. My intentions with him were to communicate to him that even though I love him and want to be with him, I am not scared to break up with him. I love myself too much to have my peace and sleep interrupted by a man when I could just be single and peaceful. I'm not sure what to do, and I really hope I didn't make a mistake here. I don't totally see it as manipulation. I think it would be more manipulation if you used it as a tactic to get what you want. Like if you were using the fact that you're going to break up with him as some kind of weapon to get him to do what you want, then yeah, in my opinion, that's 100% manipulation. But in this instance, it seems like you were just super honest with your boyfriend. You told him straight up, hey, I don't like where we're going. I feel like you're not putting in the effort, and I really don't see myself having a future with you. I just don't see that kind of honest conversation as a form of manipulation. It sounds like you're trying to do everything right. You're communicating with your boyfriend. You're trying to have a solid relationship, even though you live about an hour apart, and he's just not stepping up to the plate. But even better than that, it looks like you both worked it out, and that conversation made a big impact on him. I don't think it was a bad thing for you to speak honestly and openly with your boyfriend and explain to him like, hey, we need to fix this, because it worked. You fixed the situation, and it looks like you guys are on a good path now. So in my opinion, I don't see this as manipulation. I don't think you had any ill intent in mind. I think honestly you just wanted what was best for you as well as your relationship as a whole. And the fact that this all worked out and that things are going well right now is more than enough evidence for you to hold on to that you did the right thing and you're both working towards a common goal, which is exactly what you want in a healthy relationship. My girlfriend has gone overboard with all of these rules for our home, and it is absolutely driving me crazy. My girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. She is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I plan on marrying her. Lately, however, her rules, I'll call them rules, but they're more like obsessions, are driving me crazy. I know she is meticulous, and I know she is very particular, and I know she's a perfectionist, but I'm honestly starting to think that she has some kind of underlying OCD or something. Our house always has to be pristine, and everything has to be in its right place. But when I get off from work, I just want to relax and not care about the fact that I hung up my jacket on the wrong hook. If I try to help her with laundry, she gets frustrated because I hang up the wrong things at the wrong places. Apparently, shirts go in a certain place on the laundry line, and it's a disaster if they're too close to the socks. I'm not allowed barefoot outside, otherwise I have to wash my feet before I can get back into the house. I'm allowed to put my feet on the couch if I have socks or slippers on, but those same socks and slippers are not allowed on the bed. Sometimes I just want to get into bed without having to put on clean socks. If a pillow so much as touches the floor, it has to be washed. But then, if the designated pillowcase for that particular set of sheets doesn't match, well, then the whole bed has to be stripped and changed. All our sheets and pillowcases are white and look exactly the same. She reminds me to pack my lunch for work every morning, which is nice and all, but she does it 4 times in a row. She tells me every morning and every night to wash and moisturize my face multiple times, and makes me promise that I will remember to do it only because I passed out on the couch and forgot one time. I've told her that it bothers me when she does this. She does tell me that she can't help it because it just builds and builds in her mind over and over if she doesn't say anything. I'm not even allowed to say goodbye to her in the mornings. I can only say see you later because goodbye apparently could curse one of us. I'm also not allowed to say drive safe. She is currently studying for her board exams, and she's already told me that I'm not allowed to say good luck because I will jinx her. She is extremely intelligent and graduated at the top of her class last year. I told her mom about how well she did and how proud I was of her. Later that night, she was bawling her eyes out. When I asked her what was wrong, she said that she knew I didn't mean anything by it, but if people are aware of how well she did, it suddenly means that she will do poorly on her board exams. Apparently, her mother told her whole family, who then called to congratulate her, and I felt like the worst person in the world. I feel like things are just getting worse too. For example, one of the cloths that we used to clean the house was missing. We had a huge argument about it because she was tearing down the whole house trying to find it. I helped her look for it, but gave up after 5 minutes because it was after work and I was so tired. She got angry at me and accused me of not caring about our things. I told her that I do care about our things, but this is just a piece of cloth and we can buy another one. It's just not worth the effort for me. She was freaking freaking out, saying that it was difficult to find that particular type of cloth in the color that it was, and that otherwise it wouldn't match the others that we already had. I then said that it doesn't matter what color the cloths are, just that we had them, which made her really upset. It's been almost a month and we haven't replaced the cloth yet because we can't find one of the very specific colors that she wants. The worst thing is that I really think it affects her health. We both love to cook and often do it together. We usually spend time together drawing up a meal plan for the week, but her incessant roles has started to make the whole process unbearable. Meal planning now takes hours. Every dish that we make has to have enough vegetables. Fine, that's great, but the vegetables have to be the right vegetables for the dish. Some things can't be eaten together because they don't fit according to her. If a meal doesn't have enough of the right vegetables, she gets incredibly anxious to the point that she's nauseated and then she just won't eat. She also has this thing where food can't be wasted, and then I tell her it's fine, we could just have it for leftovers for lunch, but obviously lunch is also then planned out, so she gets even more stressed out and eats a small plate of vegetables while I myself make food. It's stuff like this that goes on and on and on. I know she has struggled with depression in the past and that she's on antidepressants, but this just feels like it's something more. No matter what I do to reassure her, I just feel like I'm making things worse. I told her that she needs to go see a therapist, but she told me she feels ashamed of these things and doesn't want to waste the money on a therapist. I just don't know what to do anymore. What should I do? She definitely needs to be evaluated to see if she has OCD, because from my own experience with other family members who do have OCD, this definitely fits the bill. I mean, the way that she's acting is not normal. I think anybody can really see that. She doesn't even allow you to lay in your bed without socks on. I mean, that's just weird to me. That is not normal behavior. There's some kind of anxiety issues or OCD issues going on, but don't take my word for it. Go to a therapist and get it verified. It is not a waste of money to get help with your mental health. That's exactly what psychologists and psychiatrists are there to do. They're there to help with your mental health. So go take advantage of it. I would personally go research somebody who can help out with this specific situation. Maybe even trying to find someone who specializes in OCD. They might know exactly what to do. At the end of the day, though, you can't make her go to therapy. Like, if someone does not want to go to therapy, they're definitely just not going to do it. So the best that you really can do is try to be encouraging and help her as best you can, because this is your future wife that you're talking about. And if you really love her and if you can really stand all these weird roles, then the best thing you could do is try to stand by her in this really weird and kind of awkward situation in her life, because I'm sure that she would do the same for you, no matter what's going on. Today, I messed up by rushing my job and paying someone 215 more hours of overtime than I should have. It was an absolute disaster. I work in accounts, and one of the things we regularly do is pay people for overtime. The manager sends us a form, we plug the numbers in, they get the cash. In the pay system we use, you put in a 3-digit numerical code for the type of overtime you want to pay, then the number of hours, and let the system work out the rest. We are supposed to check the final payment screen to make sure everything adds up correctly, but if we are in a rush, we often leave that step out to save some time. I mean, come on, what's the worst that could happen? One day, I'm working through a mountain of requests, and I haven't slept terribly well. I open an email for 3 hours of overtime. I plug in the proper code and put in 3 hours of overtime, and move on without checking, as it's almost payday and tasks are coming thick and fast. That was a couple of weeks ago. Today, I get a call from a manager who was doing an audit asking why their unit's overtime bill was so large last pay. I look into it and I find it's all coming from one employee. I open their pay record, preparing explicitives about whichever idiot on my team entered the data badly, only to see my name next to the entry, which has the code 215, you know, the one I put in earlier, under the hours section. In my sleepy overconfidence, I had entered the code in both boxes and accidentally paid someone 215 hours of overtime instead of 3. The total cost for that mess up, a little bit over $15,000. And this was for someone who was normally paid about $900 a week after taxes. Normally, we have a couple of fail-safes. I should have checked myself, and one of the IT guys usually scans for any strange figures, but he was off sick that day, and I was, well, messing up. So now it's a mess, and we have to try and figure out how to get all that cash back. Yeah, that's a big mess up on your end, but somebody definitely got a good payday out of it. I'm not sure if they're able to keep that money. It'd be really funny if they could, but I highly doubt if that money is still available. If I was an employee and I had gotten a $15,000 raise suddenly, you better believe I would have spent that already. No, all jokes aside, hopefully this all works out, and hopefully nobody loses their job over this, because this is definitely losing your job kind of territory, and I would hate to see that happen. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description, and the next time you live stream, use the Cream of the Crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.